Okay. So I can lead unless you want to.
Oh, no, please do. I
Okay.
mean, I've read all of it. I understand the case, but,
Yeah.
my
A lot of
attention
info
is a little
there.
split. I'm getting up
Oh,
every
I
3 hours
understand.
all night to give Rhonda her meds. Fucking exhausted.
Sure.
Okay, so we are recording. So whenever you want to start.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. And this is Katie Weaver, and I'm here with my co host and partner in crime, Christy Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey, everybody.
How are you?
I am good. I am
Good.
a little tired. Y'all
Right.
may know that my wife had surgery on Friday. She's doing really well. Everything went
Hmm.
great. But when you're the guy in charge of the pain meds, it means that you get up a lot in the middle of the night, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I'm a little tired, but other than that, I'm really good. Just,
Good.
I've had lots of time this weekend to sit around and watch true crime documentaries. Like, that's not what I do all the time anyway, but
Right.
yeah,
Well, she's been a little sleepy. Well, we got to go visit today, and she looks pretty dang good. And
she does.
looks like she's just healing up. So, well, she's lucky she's got you. You're a good nurse.
Well, thank you. I definitely do my best. She joked before the surgery she was going to buy a bell. And then after we got home from surgery, she first realized she'd forgotten to buy the bell. So she said she was going to download an app on her phone so she could ring the bell. It's like, listen, first of all, we're pretty much always in the same room, so I don't know why you need a bell.
Because she thinks she's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, she thinks she's real funny.
Hmm.
Also, she has nursed me through several surgeries,
Hmm.
and I've never really been on this end of this before.
Yeah.
And so she was kind of pretty sure it was my turn. So,
Yeah. This is true. I get
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, she's always been a good nurse for you, and I would just expect that's just
She
how it's going over
has.
there.
I've been a
So,
great nurse for her.
hmm,
She doesn't want to eat anything but Oreos, which I don't think is that good. I did make her real dinner
I
tonight, and
know.
she did eat it, but
Oh, that's good. I know. As soon
yeah.
as you said all she wanted was Oreos, Scott said, "Well, then we're going to get her an Oreo Blizzard right
Well, that
now."
was that was a great idea. I hadn't even thought
Yeah.
of that. But yeah, for some reason we never have Oreos. We don't have stuff like that in the house ever.
Yeah.
But I ordered groceries and had them delivered, and she's like, "Can I please get double stuffed Oreos?" I'm like, Okay. Actually, do you know that they now have mega stuff Oreos, which are even more stuff than double stuff Oreos?
I did
Because
not know. There's not
uh,
enough stuff in that stuff?
I, right? I don't know. We have them
There
now
you
though.
go.
She's very
Wow.
pleased with them, so whatever.
Well, little, yep, Sicky Foo Foo gets what she wants. So there we
She
go.
does exactly. So how are you doing?
I'm good too. Yeah, I had such a busy week last week. I just could hardly catch my breath. So it's been really nice today to pace myself a little bit more and have a little more time for case research and to work on a few things. And so this is our first case of the week, and
Hmm.
I'm excited about it. I'm also excited because on the 5th, which is on Wednesday, and that's our MMIW day typically anyway,
Hmm.
it's MMIW Day. So
Right.
missing
Like
and murdered
National Day.
Indigenous women, their
Hmm.
International Day of Recognition. So we will be doing a special that day, talking a lot more about the missing and murdered Indigenous women movement and what's new with it and how you can contribute and what you need to know. And I'm really excited for that because it's really that movement's catching a lot of steam. There's a
Is
lot of stuff happening, grinding
yeah.
around in the wheels of government to help more and to, cut back on what's
Right.
happening in our indigenous nations. I mean, it's horrifying. So
It is. And what we're hoping for is to run out of cases to share.
yes,
Like let's
yes,
let's run out of cases to share because everything's solved and all of this horrible stuff is I can never say that it's stopped because the crimes themselves, we're gonna work on those for sure, but at least we can
hmm,
get to a place where they're not unsolved,
hmm,
missing, never found, deemed
yeah,
suicides when they're not, deemed
hmm,
died from the elements when that's bullshit,
yeah.
and stuff like that. So yeah, there's some progress happening and it's nice to see it.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. So that's what's going on. So we're
Well, and if
excited
you
for the
didn't,
week.
yes, we are. And if you didn't see, I did a pop up. Can't say the word. A pop up on Saturday about where Lorena and John Bobbitt are now.
Yeah,
It's been almost 30 years since that case, you guys.
you believe that.
I was a junior in high school, and I got
Hmm.
to tell you, in researching it to do it, turns out I didn't know shit about that case. All I knew is that he got his you know what whacked off, and that's really all I
Hmm.
knew. There's so much more to that case, and it
Yeah.
really is a case about domestic violence
Oh, yeah.
and violence against women and
Hmm.
violence against women who are immigrants, and there's
Yeah.
so much to it. So anyway, go listen to my pop-up. I got a bit punny on it a few times.
Oh, it would be hard not to with
Because
that
there are
case.
some
I mean,
moments of
come on,
hilarity in
man.
that case as well
Yeah.
as some terrible moments. But go listen because I think it's an important one to revisit because actually that
Hmm.
case has created some pretty significant strides
Hmm.
in domestic violence laws and
Yeah, and
the
victims'
way things are
rights, and
handled.
yeah,
Things are not perfect by any means, but they are better
yeah.
than they used to be. And Lorena Bobbitt, who is now Lorena Gallo, has actually done a
Hmm.
lot of work for that. So
Yeah.
check it
Yep.
out. It was
Yep.
pretty
She's
interesting.
actually extraordinary.
She
Yeah.
really is. Yeah.
Hmm.
She took that experience and very much used it to improve her life.
Yep. Without
Now,
a
John
doubt.
Wayne Bobbitt, not so much.
No.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
no.
go check it out.
No. Dude, is it true? Well, I'm not going to say it right now because we
We
have another case to follow.
do.
And I'm not going to, yep, I'm not going to sully this case with saying what I think about John Wayne Bobbitt. But you
Right.
can imagine what I would call him if I could. But I'm not going to.
Hmm.
I'm doing something else.
But I probably totally did. So
I'll
go, I
bet you
can't even
did.
remember
Yeah.
what I called him, but go watch the pop up because it was a lot of fun. Or listen, it's both watchable and listenable.
Yeah. Well, our case today is our group case for the week.
Yeah.
And this is a listener request that we received a few weeks ago. And we've been holding on to it until we had time to dive into it. This was suggested to us by listener Stacy. No request. This is actually a family member of hers.
Yeah.
And we'll go a little light on those details out of respect for her family and to protect their safety. But
Yes.
that's what we'll say about that. But this is a case, this is a murder. I know, big surprise. So this happened in Ohio, in the
Hmm.
Mentor, Ohio area in Lake
Hmm.
County. And on the 13th of December 1980, two men were hunting, a dad and a son, and they were hunting along the side of the railroad right away when they noticed there was a brush pile off the road that they could see a man's shoe sticking out of.
Yeah.
So they went over and checked it out, and then they could see that there was a pant leg with a bone sticking from out of it, with
Yeah.
a shoe tied to the foot. And they pulled a little more brush back from the pile and found cloth where they thought a shoulder would be, and then they could smell it and realized we're looking at a dead body.
Yeah.
So dad,
Yikes.
yeah, so dad stays with the body, gathers up their dogs. They had hunting dogs with them and gathered them up and waited on the scene while the son went, pre cell phone. The son,
1980, man.
yeah, way
Probably
pre
went
cell
to a
phone,
probably went to a phone booth.
right?
You
Or even a
youngins
gas
probably don't even know what
station,
that is.
right? So calls the police, and the police come, of course, and they come and check it out. And indeed, we have a dead body here in a shallow grave. So it was about a 2-foot grave, but there were parts of the body that were sticking out of the ground. I'm guessing
Mhm.
as the ground had corroded a little bit, or the wind had blown.
And
It
settled, loose
Yeah,
soil settles and mhm,
yeah. There was just he wasn't buried very deeply. So it was a man. They could deduce that at least, but it was a skeleton.
mhm,
It was a skeleton. There was very little you know identity left on this body. It was mostly just a skeleton. And
mhm.
so the coroner came and took a look at it, and this is what he says. His name was Frederick E. Watcher. He was the coroner. He's an MD, which I got to say, go Ohio, because as you guys know that have helped us follow the Vallow case, our coroners are not.
No, not medical professionals at all, actually.
No. So he says, after personal observation of the corpse as required by law, and considering the surrounding circumstances together with statements of persons having adequate knowledge of the facts, I reached the conclusion that no autopsy and no inquest were necessary. I find that the cause of death was 2 gunshot wounds of the thorax. So essentially, he was shot in the chest twice.
Yeah.
So then they turn the body over to the state pathology lab, where they do an exam. They do a post-mortem dental exam, and they're able to, on December 17th, they're able to match them up to a guy named Stephen Knack.
Yep.
So Stephen Knack had actually been missing since since February of that year. So
Yeah.
Stephen was last seen on the 22nd of February in 1980. His wife didn't report him missing for a little while. It looks like she didn't report him missing for a week.
Yeah.
And that's when his family found out he was missing, was after a week. And nobody knew what happened to him. And then, 10 months later, these hunters find him buried in a shallow grave. There's some strange things about it. One being that his Jeep was missing as well and was found months later. And it sounds like there was someone driving it that was kind of a friend of a friend or a relative of a friend, which was very strange. So the story as we know it is that he was supposed to go to the doctor that day, and then
to the dentist.
The dentist, yes. And then he was supposed to meet up with his friends Gary Strong and James Fletcher. So a couple of interesting things to note. He did go to the doctor. That was verified. He did. After that, that's when this trail just goes completely cold. But a couple of interesting things to note. Where the body was buried was very near Fletcher's parents' house.
Yeah.
Which is odd, to say the least. The other thing, though, is that Stephen was actually facing charges at the time of his death. He'd been arrested for shooting at Gary Strong's house.
Yeah. Like firing at the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he hadn't been to court yet on that, but that was coming. He'd been arrested and had been charged. The police didn't do very much. They didn't do
practically anything.
And in fact, there's multiple interviews with them in local newspapers with them kind of going, this is going to be a hard one. This is going to be a hardie because we didn't know about it for too long. There was such a long time. This one kills me. Such a long time, the police chief said, between the time that he disappeared to the time the body was found, that I just don't know. It's such a dismissive. It was 10 months.
It wasn't like 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that it was near Fletcher's parents' house. Also, it was clearly not criminal masterminds. They only buried him 2 feet deep.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Have we learned nothing from Chad?
So once they had identified, Stephen, and his family did hold a funeral for him, none of his friends attended the funeral. Which
some kind of rough friends, some friends, family members thought were kind of, as one family member described them, they were kind of badasses.
Like the neighborhood badass. Yeah.
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
were kinda the not so good guys,
Hmm.
and yeah, so they none of them came to his funeral,
No.
which seemed odd
Hmm.
considering these were his friends. You'd think they would
Yeah.
care if he died.
Hmm. Yeah. Most definitely. So it's just it's a strange thing. And then, as we know, in the initial report, they said they didn't need an autopsy. And then
Mhm.
in the newspaper, the coroner said he was awaiting results of tests made during the autopsy to determine the cause of death. There's some discrepancies that are kind of
Yeah.
strange.
I think it's a mix-up in terminology because he went to a forensic pathology lab because he's
Hmm.
just bones at this point. So
Yeah.
you can't really do an autopsy on bones because there's nothing to cut open.
Yeah.
So I feel like he was referring to the forensic pathology lab and the tests that they were doing and the things that they were
Hmm.
doing, but it all kind of came out muddled and weird. And yeah, like how are you gonna do an autopsy on bones?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. But that there were some tests run, there was some stuff done,
Hmm.
that came from the I mean they did the
Hmm.
dental comparison, they knew
Well, they
who he
must have
was, they knew how he
eventually
died.
done the actual autopsy because, well, there is an autopsy, but initially they said they didn't need one, but they did
Right.
do some sort of autopsy because there's some paperwork on that. But they also did say that they found not bullets but metal frags in the bone. So
Mhm.
they did go that far. It's weird. Like some of this stuff just feels like there's some indiscrepancies, but so this poor family, he's been missing for
Mhm.
10 months. He's finally found. They finally are at least able to have a service for him.
Right.
And yet it just feels like the police aren't taking it very seriously. They don't really do
No.
much. They
Mm-mm.
never do. And his family over the years, his poor parents and his sisters are just destroyed over this.
Right.
And there's just no answers. It's like people are just kind of acting like, well, see ya.
Yeah, well, I guess he got killed, like,
Yeah.
it's
There's
just
just, and so over the years, they have tried to collaborate with the police a few times and find out more, asking for more documentation, asking for police reports, asking for things that they were denied.
yeah,
So their question, of course, is what the hell happened to Stephen? Who
right.
killed him and why? So, a few things to note. He was dealing some drugs. He was
Mm,
wrapped up with some pretty crappy people. At
mhm.
the time of his death, he was not employed. And so we have taken a look at everything that was provided us and also just used our own gifts to come, to a conclusion about what we believe happened to Stephen Knack.
Yeah,
So there were a few things happening. They were selling drugs on the street. They were also acquiring drugs from a local doctor. And
yes.
that doctor was murdered.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he died before or after Stephen. I think it was after.
I think
But
so too. That was my
yeah,
impression.
there was some pretty serious crime going down, in around these guys.
Yeah,
And so here's what we have deduced here is that he had gotten himself in financial trouble with these guys.
yeah,
We believe that he was taking more than his fair cut
yep,
for the drugs that he was selling because he wasn't working. He didn't have
right,
any money besides this, and he was paying rent and, taking his money that wasn't his and spending it.
yep,
And he'd gotten into a pretty good hole with them.
yeah,
We believe that when he got home from the dentist, he was supposed to meet up with these guys to talk about his debt with them and how he was going to work it out, and that they killed him.
yep,
And obviously, buried him in this shallow grave. Uh, the thing about it is, and the conclusion that we're at with it is that it was because it was two parts. He owed them money. He also had a big beef going with Gary. There
Yeah.
was some question in the family if perhaps his wife was having an affair with Gary.
Mhm.
We had agreed that while that might have been true, it didn't necessarily resonate as truth, but we didn't believe that that actually had anything to do with what was going on
No, it
between
was
them.
definitely the drug business and drug debt
Mhm,
that was the reason for his death.
mhm. We believe that Stephen shot up Gary's house in an attempt to scare him and
Mhm.
to shut him up because he
Yeah.
was putting all this pressure on him. We believe that was an attempt to prove to him that I'm not going to be bullied and pushed around by you.
Yeah.
The problem is then he got arrested. And
Yeah.
now he was facing charges for what he did to Gary. And we feel like Gary was getting really nervous that Stephen was going to use the fact that he was being charged with a crime to ruin Gary.
Yeah. Yeah, that there was a lot of risk showing up here. Now he's in trouble with the cops and getting all this attention, and yeah, was he going to turn and give some information to keep himself out of trouble? He had become a liability. He had created a
Mhm.
situation where he was now a liability in a situation where the people working with him did not want to go down with him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And so the decision was made to go ahead and take him out, which is
Mhm.
exactly what they did. I feel like he was the clothing he was found wearing were the same clothes he wore the day he disappeared.
Oh,
This
yeah,
didn't
he was
go
killed that
on.
day.
They killed him that day. I think that they actually killed him right in the vicinity that they buried him. They didn't
Yeah.
go very far. They were
Mm-mm.
That's pretty much where they were. And then they just sat and waited.
Mhm.
How did the cousin end up with his Jeep?
I gotta say, and I hate to say this because I know it was family that asked us to cover this case, but I do feel there were some family members that knew exactly what went down with him,
Mhm, mhm.
including that cousin. I feel like he was asked by these
Well, it
individuals who
wasn't a
killed
family
him.
member's cousin that had the Jeep. It was, one of the friends.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was
This
the
cousin
Fletcher's Jeep.
knew what had happened and was told to
Uh-huh.
take the car.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, and apparently he drove it for a while before they found it and got it back from him. I'm a little unclear on how that all went down, but yeah, he was Fletcher's cousin that
Yeah.
had the Jeep. They were also near Fletcher's parents' house where they killed Gary and buried him.
Yeah.
So why did his wife wait so long to report him missing? I have a theory on that. It feels weird and suspicious and nefarious. I think it actually wasn't.
Yeah, I don't think
Now,
it was him.
I'm not impressed with that whole situation, but I don't think it was unlike him to be gone for a few days.
Yeah.
I feel like they were running drugs. They were going and picking drugs up. He was, running around, and it wasn't
Mhm.
unlike him. Now, to be gone a whole week was unlike him. I feel like
Yeah.
after he was gone a few days, she started to go, "Where is he?" A couple more
Mhm.
days. Oh God, what do I do? But I feel like she knew he was involved in a bunch of illegal stuff and didn't want to report him missing to the police because if he was found, maybe he was doing something illegal and he was going to have more charges. So I feel like she wasn't sure what to do. But
Yeah.
after a week, that was just to not check in with her at all after a week was absolutely not like him. And she finally realized that she had to go to the police and say something because now
Yeah.
it had been too long.
Yeah. Definitely.
I
It
don't
had,
think
but
she knew who killed
no.
him or why, or even that he was dead. She knew that there was some bullshit amongst him and his
Yeah,
friends,
I think she had
you
an
know.
inkling, but she didn't
Mhm,
actually know.
mhm.
But yeah, I agree. There was no involvement with her.
No.
She knew that he'd already been in trouble and he was kinda running around, and if she
Mhm.
reported it, she might just get him in more trouble, which
Yeah.
would make him very angry with her.
Mhm. Their relationship, I feel like, was not healthy and was actually pretty volatile.
Yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't a good situation.
Mm-mm.
So then, of course, it fell to the family to bury him and then to keep asking questions. And they are continuing to ask questions. And just a few years ago, they went back to the police department and asked more questions and could get nothing from them.
Yeah,
So then the question is, so we're trying to answer their questions as well as our own. Because when a case like this comes up, Christy and I both have lots of questions that pop up for ourselves that we want to be
yeah,
able to answer or at
for
least
sure.
ponder on, you know?
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys something I found very strange. I was searching through unsolved murders and cold cases in Ohio, and interestingly, there is as a part of their Ohio Department of Justice website,
Mhm.
there is a full listing of all unsolved cases in the state that goes back decades. Guess who's not on it?
This guy.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
not on
I
it.
there's some kind there's a connection here. There's some
Mhm.
police involvement, there's some awareness of the
Mhm.
drug ring that was going on here and some looking the other
Mhm.
way of that.
Mhm.
They did not want that to get opened up to the world.
No. No, they did
And
not.
so they just kind of went, "Well, darn, we don't know who killed him."
Yep.
I just feel like they, use
Mhm.
the excuse of, "Oh, they found his body as skeletal remains. It's just too hard, blah blah
Mhm.
blah."
It's just been too long, we just don't know.
And
I
remember
think
this.
they damn well knew. I
Yeah,
do
oh, I
think
do
that they
too.
protected the killers
Mhm.
because I feel like the corruption in their police department at that point went very deep.
Yeah.
In fact, the chief of police in that department actually was only, I believe he was there from 76 to 81. He only lasted one more year after him. Now, I'm
Mhm.
not saying that he was corrupt, but there was a lot of corruption within their law enforcement agencies at that time.
Yeah,
And it was drug and money related.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it was very convenient to not
Hmm.
solve this case. And,
Hmm.
one thing that they had in their favor is that this was 1980. So they didn't
Hmm.
really have their hands on much in the way of forensics anyway,
Yeah. Or
you know?
technology. Yeah.
Yeah, like, they
Yeah.
could tell that there'd been a gunshot, gunshots into the body. I mean, I don't feel like and they could use the dental records to identify him, but I don't know that they had much more really that they
Yeah.
could have done with those bones at that point anyway.
No. No. I mean, they had some metal shards in the bullet holes, but again, they lacked the technology, to go further. And even, as technology has grown, they have no interest in revisiting this case or continuing to
No.
dig through it. Interesting that on the Department of Justice website, there's a statement or a quote at the top that says, in our state, no case goes cold. And I thought, well, that's rich because yeah, they
Mhm.
do.
Yeah, they sure
Yeah,
do, this
they
one sure
freaking
did.
do. So, the hardest part with cases like this, and how many times have we seen this where someone goes missing and
Mhm.
or is murdered, and law enforcement is very much able to pick and choose what cases they actually want to investigate or take a look at, which ones
Right.
they care about. I didn't know that until I really started, diving hard into true crime. I guess I just
Right?
thought that most of these cases were treated equally and fairly, and that's just not the case at all.
No, it isn't, not in the least. And yeah,
Mm-mm.
a case can have emphasis or it can be shoved in a corner and forgotten about
Yeah,
based based on the whims of the people investigating the cases, you
yeah,
know? And I
yeah.
know not everybody's that way and, I mean,
Well, yeah, we're not trying
don't
to
add
just.
us with a bunch of shit, but
Well,
what we
no, we're not
know.
trying to demonize all police, but we've seen this so many times. It's not just the
Mhm.
police department, it's the Department of Justice in general. It's the prosecutors as well that decide
Yeah,
to prosecute something or not, you
yeah.
know? And in this case, I doubt it even made it as far as a prosecutor because they just kind of
Mm-mm.
went, sorry,
No,
we got
they
nothing.
never publicly, gave any theory of the crime
Mm-mm,
or any suspects, nothing.
nothing. No. Nope. So it just left his family all these years wondering why their son had to die, why their brother had to die, and
Yeah,
why nobody cared. And I
yeah,
think that's horrifying. Honestly, I think this right here is a portion of reform of Department of Justice or police reform that is terribly needed
mhm,
in equality for cases.
Right.
because damn, there isn't. And
Yeah.
that's so hard for me to swallow.
It is for me too, and I wanna know that there are protocols in place, and I'm quite sure there are,
Hmm.
but who verifies that those are
Right.
being followed
Right.
over
Because we
time?
have current
Yeah,
cases of families that are in court with attorneys fighting to try to make their local departments do something and look into their,
right.
person's death. We know of very recent cases that were ruled suicides that clearly weren't. I mean, this
Mhm.
stuff
Like
is still
Aaliyah Wilson.
happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
this stuff is
Well, and
still happening.
how about Rebecca Plentywounds,
Yes.
who died at Fort Hall right here in Idaho? Her body was found dismembered, and she's never even been classified as a victim of murder,
Yeah.
let alone any investigation of her death at all.
Hmm. Yeah.
I gotta tell you, I can't think of a single way that she could have dismembered herself. So,
Well, it seems beyond improbable.
well, it's just ridiculous, completely ridiculous is what it is.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. But then we also have Ellen Greenberg,
Yeah,
who was
yeah,
stabbed in the back like 12 times.
yeah, in the head, in the
And
brain,
yeah, and they
ruled a
ruled that a
suicide.
suicide. Yeah. So
I mean,
at
it's a
least in this case, they didn't rule it a suicide. It wouldn't have surprised me. But then, of
mhm,
course, we would have had to ask the question how in the world he managed to bury himself.
yes,
But, it wouldn't have surprised me because they wanted
mhm,
to just make this one go away, which they did just through their silence.
mhm, just through inertia, really.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. So that is the murder of Stephen Knack, and we want to, send some appreciation to his family for letting us take a look at his case, as well
mhm,
as, just love to them. I mean, this is something that
yeah,
has haunted them now since, for the last 40 years, and here they are, still wondering
50,
why
50 years.
50 years.
No,
What, 1980?
1980s, 40, sorry.
I mean, I went to Idaho where all they teach us is that one potato, two potato song,
I
but
know, me too, clearly. No, it's
our math skills,
41 years, yeah,
41 years. Yep. Yep. He's been gone almost as long as I've been alive.
yeah,
At any rate, it's really sad and it's a tragedy. And we want to send our love to them and also just thank them for the opportunity to take a look at his case. And you know
definitely.
what? If no case goes cold in Ohio, then I'm going to hold the energy high that somebody sometime decides to take a look at this case.
Right?
You know, I will never say never. I'll never take any hope away, but I think it's extremely unlikely. But you know what? Miracles
Mhm.
happen all the time.
Right, you never know
Yeah.
when somebody might pick this case up.
Well, or some, deathbed
Confession or
confession. I wanted to say apology, and I'm like, that's the wrong word. Man, I've been ripe with
no.
wrong words lately, haven't I? But
I yes. Yes, you
I
have.
know it's been bad. Yeah, you never know, or somebody squeals something in prison, or things could be said. At this
It's
point, I'm
true.
afraid they would just be rumors that the family might hear a whiff of, that there would still be no legal action taken. But
Yeah,
I hope that at least that much happens for them.
yeah, so do I.
Yeah. All righty, guys, we are True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. If you want to suggest a case, head over to truecrimeparanormalpodcast.com. There's a link to click there to send us an email, and that's the best way to do it.
Yep.
Also, you can join our Patreon there. We put out 2 special cases a month just for our patrons.
Yes, we
And I
do.
keep seeing you guys suggesting cases. Do John Bonet. We did. It's in Patreon.
Mhm.
Do
Do Brian
JFK. We
Schaefer.
did.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, do Brian
JFK.
Schaefer. They're there. They're in Patreon. And you don't have to put in much. I mean, our step up levels are insane.
Yeah.
So, but if you want to join Patreon, you will have access to all of those cases. There's close to 40 of them in there now
Mhm.
from the last year of us contributing to it. So,
Yeah.
anyway, that would be the way to do it. And we're just going to keep on keeping on over here. So, we'll be back tomorrow with another new case. And then, of course, Wednesday, we'll be bringing you a special production based on National Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Day. And we'll go on from there. Of course, Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain, we'll have live stream case updates. And then on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Mountain, we will have the psychic hour. So there's still
Yeah,
so much to come this week. So hang out
there
with
sure
us.
is. Most definitely.
All righty. Well, that is that. This is True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Take care.
Bye, guys.